So today, guys, I want to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows. And recently, I've been on the Instagram. I've been looking at some of the game reviews, and every time I hover over to a game review of this game, it always seems like it's like a paid PSYOP to boost this game's sales right off the rip of its release. Because these reviewers are like D1 glazing the game, right? Before it comes out, right? And they'll D1 glaze the game, and it's just like either a basic game mechanic that anybody in any of their right mind would put into the game and that you would expect from a game like this, or it's a mechanic that nobody in their right mind would ever want in a game like this, and they're just glazing it for no reason. I'll expound on this, right? For example, there's this whole scene of this guy who's like, yeah, I really love this game because as you can see, there are two people right below me, and you can group assassinate if you swap to an item that allows you to group assassinate, right? And it's like, what are we talking about here? Is this Assassin's Creed or is this Destiny, right? Is this supposed to be some looter shooter or is this Assassin's Creed, right? And what I'm trying to say here is if you compare this to an older Assassin's Creed, for example, Assassin's Creed 3, which is, in my personal opinion, my favorite Assassin's Creed, okay? And I'm talking about gameplay here. I'm not even talking about the storyline. And we'll get into the storyline at a later date. But the gameplay here, right? You used to group assassinate basically for free, right? You just play the game and you already had the ability to group assassinate. And I feel like with the gameplay direction they're going in right now is they don't understand what the players actually want from the game, right? Players don't want to have to grind gear for hours in Assassin's Creed just to get certain gear, just to be able to do basic things you could do in older games, right? Another example of this is Syndicate, right? Syndicate, you didn't need to grind gear in Syndicate, right? You grinded the little areas, but that was basically the only grind you had in Syndicate. And even when people play Syndicate, they said it was a little too repetitive because you had to grind the zones up for control, right, against rival gangs, which I personally like Syndicate, but even people back then didn't like Syndicate when you had to just grind the areas from rival gangs. Why are people gonna like this new mechanic of having to grind gear, which I'm assuming you're gonna have to grind gear, and like you're either grinding the gear right or you're grinding for the materials to make the gear. That's the two perceivable ways I see this, right? And it's just for a basic game mechanic, right? And you look at the item and it's a legendary item, so you know it's gonna take a long amount of time to grind just for you to be able to do a basic game mechanic you could do 4 or 6 games ago at this point. And it's like, what are the game developers thinking, right? Then let's talk about Yasuke. Now, we're not even getting into the historical side of Yasuke, whether he was real or not. I'm not gonna sit here and be an armchair historian. But who on God's green earth wants Yasuke in this game? I don't mind, okay, whether he's in the game or not. What I truly care about is the character Yasuke. As in, why do we have a samurai in a Assassin's Creed Shadows game? And it's not like a samurai from like Ghost of Tsushima, right? You start out as Jin Sakai, right? And in Jin Sakai's story, you can either become the samurai or you can become the ghost, right? I chose to become the ghost, right? Become the ghost. And because that was cooler to me. In an Assassin's Creed game, it's in the title. It's an assassin, right? And in Japan, at this time period, you already had assassins. They're called shinobis or they're called ninjas, whatever you want to call them, right? So why is a samurai in my game? Now, if they go in the direction of, oh, he's a samurai, become shinobi, right? That can make some sense, right? But you don't meet him till the second act of the game. It's a 3-act game. So I'm really wondering where they're going to go with that. And who wants to play? I'm sorry, you're not playing Assassin's Creed. You're not playing the Assassin's Creed games to not be an assassin, okay? You're not playing them to become a brawler. I'm sorry, that's just not it. You're playing them to be assassin, right? You look at Ezio. You know, he fist fights the Pope. You want to know why he's fist fighting the Pope? You know what? It's because he's an assassin. He got past the guards, right? And he's in a fist fight with the Pope. When you're just running around in the open world of Assassin's Creed 3, there's what are called like grenadier, and they're the mini bosses, right? And then like games that have more been recently made by Assassin's Creed, they have these mini bosses, right? But you can't one tap them like you can in Assassin's Creed 3, like you can in the older Assassin's Creeds, which I think has devalued the gameplay aspect of Assassin's Creed as it's gone along longer, right? For example, in my opinion, this game should have taken the direction of going deeper into this assassin like playstyle, right? Like if you look at, like, for example, let's take the quote of Bruce Lee here. I don't fear the man who knows 1,000 techniques like half well. I fear the man who's done the same technique 1,000 times, right? And this is what Assassin's Creed should have done, right? Is they should have perfected the Assassin's Creed aspect of the game. Not this whole new mechanic of we're gonna add this brawler type into the game that nobody asked for. We're gonna add levels. I think it's levels into the game because the Gears has levels icons on them. We're gonna add this whole new perk system that nobody asked for. We're gonna add this whole new skill system again that nobody really asked for, and we're gonna add it for both of them. And we're not gonna really like develop the gameplay to look better than a game that came out 3 years ago in Ghost of Tsushima. And I'm sorry if you're saying the assassinations are better than Ghost of Tsushima, you just don't understand like the artistic intention of Ghost of Tsushima, right? It wasn't to be over the top, right? It was meant to be a well-defined, realistic looking game. And that's what they did, and it worked insanely well. And I'm not saying this game needs to look like Ghost of Tsushima, but it needs to look better in my opinion. It does. It's 3 years later in the cycle, right? They're spending, I almost guarantee it, they're spending more than what Ghost of Tsushima spent. And to be honest, this game looks worse. So I would not buy this game on release. I would buy Ghost of Tsushima instead. If you want a ninja game, play Ghost of Tsushima. What Ubisoft needs to do going forward, right? And they're not going to listen to me, right? But here's what they need to do going forward. They need to perfect this idea of having an assassin in the game again, right? Of a guy who can one-tap anybody, right? Of a guy who, and make the skill be stealth-based, right? Oh, you need to sneak up on this commander? Well, it's harder to sneak up on a commander, right, than it is your average soldier. So make it harder for it to sneak up on a commander or an average soldier, and make it so that you one-tap everybody in the game. Because again, you're trying to redevelop this assassin sort of like feeling, right? That you're this unstoppable force of an assassin, and then you're like you're ultimately stealthy, right? You maybe can't take straight up brawls, but you can use your intellect, right? You can use, like, for example, a bomb or something, right? Add this stuff into the later versions of the game. Take away this whole gear grinding bullshit, right? Take away the skill path, right? Or maybe define the skill path for one person, like an assassin, right? Like, oh, you have like a dart shooter or something, or you have different versions of gear, right? Like you have a dart shooter, or you have a bow, or you have a crossbow, and they do different things and they specialize in different things. But don't do all this stuff before you get the basics right, right? Like make the stealth, make the movement insanely good again, right? Because when Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 came out originally, they had top tier movement, right? By today's standard, it's normal. But back then, it was really cool. You could climb up to the tops of buildings and you can run around. It was like no other game before it, right? So you need to become innovative once more and make a game that people want to play. People aren't playing Assassin's Creed to brawl. They're playing Assassin's Creed to be an assassin. Make sure you keep that in mind going forward when you're making games. And I'm sure everybody would love it, right? Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about this, like, these weird guys on Instagram that are like making these like they're making these like equivalent of like dick sucking reviews. Like, I'm wondering how much money they're getting paid to make these reviews of this game, because the gameplay looks about as uninteresting as a piece of shit. Like it doesn't look good, and they're like jerking it off, making it sound like the next best game of the century. And it's like, where are we? Where are you seeing this, right? Because if I could see this, God, I would want to, but I'm just not seeing it, right? So I just wanted to make this video today to talk about the situation, right? Again, if you like the content, or you half-ass agree with me, please like the video. Please subscribe. It helps out the channel immensely. And without further ado, folks, remember, junk it out.